Okay, welcome to the Music Production Podcast. This is Brian Funk. I make music as AfroDJMac, and today I'm here with Erin Barra. What's up, Erin?
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We're saying hello again for the second time, pretending.
No problem.
So how's things going for you? You're doing some work over at Berklee right now, I know. We've been a little back and forth over that.
Yeah, I'm just finishing. This is my third year here, and yeah, things are good. I mean, the biggest project I'm working on right now is that I'm having a baby.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, so I'm almost 5 months pregnant, so I'm just trying to get through the day while being pregnant and doing my job at the same time.
Yeah, that's like twice as much work, I understand.
Feels like it.
Yeah. Is it too early to know what you're having, and do you know? Or
We're having a little boy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. Congratulations. Happy
Thanks.
for you guys.
Am I the first pregnant guest you've had?
You are officially the first pregnant guest of the show. I got to make a trophy or something for you.
Yeah.
Very cool. Do you want to maybe, I don't even know where to start with explaining who you are exactly. Because, you've done so much and been doing a lot of different things, especially in the educational field, which, I'm into. So I'm definitely excited to talk to you about that. Do you want to maybe, how do you introduce yourself? Maybe I'll ask you.
I guess it depends really on who I'm speaking to, but in a general sense, I just work in any sort of collision of technology and creativity. So I do a lot of consultation work for different music tech companies, like content development. I do a lot of education, which is mostly about teaching technology to creative people, like musicians and writers. And I think my specialty is really Ableton integration into live stage shows. So anytime there's music or writing, a composition happening, I'm the person that deals with the tech integration, and that allows me to kind of do many, many different projects. So that's why it's education. You'll see me on Rolly and Ableton's channels, and kind of it's a wide variety of things. And I also run an organization called Beatz by Girlz, which is an educational nonprofit with chapters all over the U.S. Trying to promote younger women to get involved with music technology.
Very nice. That's cool. I just started I teach high school English, as my grown-up job. And I got a whole bunch of pushes donated when they did the, the push incentive where you send in your old one. And I just, this past year started this little club of music production. And it's so much fun to introduce young people to this and to show them that you can do this. This is within the realm of possibility for you.
Yeah, totally.
To see them light up, and it's not like the traditional music class where they're forced to do and learn music that they're not so interested in. It's no, what songs do you guys like? And let's look at how to make that.
Yeah, and the push makes a huge difference in the classroom settings too, at least in my opinion. It's hands-on, interactive, fun.
It's a fun thing to show them, because I think when you're a kid, you're constantly told don't touch that. It's delicate, be careful. And then you show up with this thing with all these multicolor lights, and they're almost afraid to touch it. Then you're no, go ahead. You're supposed to. And they get so excited over that.
Yeah, they do.
How young do you work? Is it any age really?
We've done all sorts of classes, but we target ages 9 to 14. So right before middle school and then middle school. But we have adult ladies classes, Beats by Ladies. We've done a few of those in LA and New York. And we've also done classes for moms.
Nice.
Yeah, we have one satellite program in a high school as well. So it's a kind of a mix. We try to serve as many community members as we can.
Yeah. Do you see a difference in different age groups? The younger?
Oh yeah, definitely. The younger they are, the kind of less inhibited they are in terms of sharing their creativity and kind of putting it out there. It's specifically to young women, right around the time when they start worrying about boys is when they start worrying about what other people think of them.
Yeah.
And so they're a little less kind of eager to put it out there. And then it kind of flip-flops back around. Like the moms are like almost a mirror of the 9-year-olds. They're just like, let's do this.
Yeah, I see that in my own experience with like high school kids. I mean, by ninth grade, which is the earliest I really get them, most of them are already in this like super self-conscious, like, you know, self-aware, everyone's thinking about me kind of state of mind. But there are still some kids that are just like whatever, and everything's like, you know, uninhibited, and they're just happy to do whatever. But there's like, it's something I guess about that age, and I think maybe it is when you get interested in boys and girls and all that stuff starts happening, where sometimes I guess they like kind of decide like they're either are creative, they are artistic, or they're not.
Or they're not, yeah.
They've like made those decisions already. Do you have any kind of ways, any techniques to like help them get past that? Like, because personally, I feel like we are all creative. We all have something in us. And I think maybe it's like that inner critic often that tells us we're not or we are.
Yeah. We start every single lesson with a collaborative project. So everybody has to participate in some capacity. Like we'll learn a new skill. And so everybody will gather around and we'll collaboratively make a beat together, incorporating the new technique. And then we do a lot of more like game-esque sort of learning. So it's like learning through fun. And that seems to kind of get people going, and like improvisational games. Yeah. It's sometimes people are just really resistant, you know, but as long as they're having fun, like all that self-critic, inner monologue sort of dissipates as long as you're having a good time.
Right. When you can kind of forget about it and just get caught up in the activity itself for its own enjoyment. Yeah, I see the same thing. It's a tricky thing to bring out, though. I know for me, like that you never know what you're dealing with. And this goes with anybody, I guess, but you know what's going on in their life, and sometimes a lot of the kids I deal with are going through things I don't know how I'd go through, you know, at my own age, let alone being, you know, in those really impressionable years, you know, as a teen. But I like that idea of the collaborative thing. I think that's a great idea that so everyone's participating and it's this thing we did together. So there's kind of no judging it in that way.
Yeah, it's fun. We like it.
Yeah, that's good. So do you guys do like projects, like any particular activities or exercises that you find works well?
It's an entire 15-week curriculum that I developed. And it's actually similar to a lot of the Berklee courses where there'll be these sort of like one-off little small compositions, and there'll be like 2 or 3 week projects. But students, their attention span is a bit shorter. So I think the longest project we have them working on is a 3-week project where they like program all of the, you know, they sequence all of the MIDI, and then they write raps about themselves, about what it's like to be a girl. They do some audio stuff and sample their own voice. So that's like a 3-week project. And we have a lot of fun collaborative games, sort of like musical chairs, producing stuff. Yeah. I'd be happy to share it with you if you'd like to see it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because what I'm doing right now with the little club I have, I technically shouldn't even call it that. It's kind of like this under the radar thing, at least for the last year. This year, I hope to make it a little more official. So we would kind of just get together, and I would get new people sometimes. You know, I never knew who was showing up really, since it wasn't like a very strict thing. You know, just an after school for fun thing, come if you want. So I'd have some people that were coming regularly, and they'd learn quite a lot. And then the next thing you know, you get someone that just, hey, I want to try this out. And I've, you know, never touched an instrument. I don't know that there's beats in music, you know, like there's bars, like this stuff, you know, you have to really take it back pretty far. But yeah, I'd love to hear some activities at work, because I plan on this year a little more like, I guess like a curriculum more than just kind of like, hey, who's here and what do you guys want to learn today?
Yeah, it can be hard. Like we've been in community centers, especially when something's free. The attendance is always shoddy, and then it sucks because you want to keep moving forward, but not everyone's on the same page. Right. And so actually by starting through that collaborative process, kids, they pick up technology so quickly that even just through the act of actually seeing somebody push the buttons and do the things, it kind of eliminates having to go back. Like they'll figure it out. You know, maybe I'm not giving them every single shred of information, but if they can jump in halfway through, and you know, if somebody's really struggling, I'll ask one of the better students to say like, hey, why don't you go show Winter how it's done, and empowering them to teach each other, kind of take the load off of me. It seems to work really well. Yeah,
I saw a lot of that actually, where I could kind of I'd turn around and next thing I know, one of them's teaching the other one how to like sequence a drum beat. And then, you know, they're very good at, and I think it's a great, I'm sure you've noticed, like you never learn anything as well until you start teaching it. You know, you're forced to really figure it out. So I've seen like these kids like really like open up with each other and form good friendships, and they kind of rely on each other a lot for figuring out how to do things.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is good because it can be kind of hectic, you know, with all those people, all those noises coming out, all these computers everywhere.
Yeah, headphones. Put them in headphones.
We don't have those right now. So if they don't bring their earbuds or something, it can sound like a bunch of chaos in that room.
That's insane.
Yeah, but, you know, we make do what we got. So that's cool. What would one of your projects look like? Is it more like make a song, or is it something are you more specific than that?
I mean, in the beginning, it's like sequence whatever you want, like make a million clips of crazy things. And then, you know, it'll be more about song form and like creating sectional contrast. And so they make a beat which has an A section and a B section. So it just kind of sort of builds, and then they do specific sequencing, like learning about backbeats, learning about house music, and creating risers. We have games, like whoever can create a beat that's like a house influenced beat, which has a riser and 2 sections, wins like an Ableton bag. And they get really stoked about that. And yeah, it's fun. We have them do a lot of sampling of their own vocals and like chopping their vocals, and it's really, again, it's like teaching musical concepts through technology and vice versa. So whichever side they can really rely on, you can learn about composition and music through the tech tools. And yeah, it's really fun. I'll send you the curriculum so you can use it if you'd like.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I would love to, because sometimes I'm kind of, you know, scratching my head on what to do, especially when it comes to the newer people. That don't understand, like I said, like even that there's subdivisions of a beat, or that there's a root note, you know, like these concepts that you wouldn't have heard. I guess we like take them for granted, you know, just because we've been around music.
Yeah. You know, with that stuff, I feel like everybody's a music lover, right? Everybody appreciates music, and whether or not they understand what the difference between a 16th note and a quarter note is, they've heard it. Yeah. You know, they've heard those notes before, and I find like the less information I give somebody and the more I ask them to apply a tool, then the less conversations we have to have, like, what's the difference between this and this? And then those questions arise naturally, and then we address them. You're like, oh, hey, Amber just asked about what happens when we press this button, which has a 16 on it, versus this one with the triplet, you know? And then we all talk about it together. But it's like, I don't even try to give them that information in the beginning. I just show them how to do something and then let them ask questions. Yeah. And then it's like, it comes from this place of curiosity, because the more talking I do, the less engaged they are, to be honest.
Yeah, I find the same thing, where I was kind of, you know, given the real basics, like, all right, you know, press that pad and then the sequence for that shows up and you can put them here. And then to kind of let them go. And then the questions and the lessons sort of came up like naturally. Where, like you said, they say, well, what's this do? How come my screen changed? How come this happened? And then I think that's a much better way when it's a natural curiosity than when you're kind of like, okay, next we're going to talk about the triplet. And then you got your PowerPoint going and, everyone just wants to start playing with their music at that point or leave. They don't show up again.
Oddly enough, I do this in my college courses too. I mean, not the Berklee online stuff because it's like all the information kind of has to be there.
Yeah.
But when I'm working with a group of musicians at Berklee, I keep them on a need to know basis. It's like this is all you need to know in order to be creative. So go ahead and like do that and get excited about it. And if you are really interested in knowing, like we'll pop the hood on these devices in the second level of this course, and I'll get more technical for those of you who like fall in love with this sort of stuff. But for the introductory level courses, I do very little explanation, which may sound sort of counterintuitive for like such a premier institution, but the enrollment in my curriculum, in my classes, is so much higher than some of the more traditional tech classes. And we turn out people who are like badasses, because they get into it from a completely different lens. And it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, because you're giving it to them as they need it, as they want it. And I think, in the class I'm teaching at Berklee, which is the advanced music production with Ableton Live that Loudon created, Loudon Stearns, I always have to tell everybody, like, look, there's a lot of stuff in here. There's so much to cover, and we're going to cover them like each week, and each thing we cover every week could take you a lifetime to master. Synthesis, we cover that in like a week real fast, and like sometimes people get really upset. They're like, I don't know, I can't do that, I can't make like this. I'm like, don't worry, you don't need to understand a compressor completely after 4 videos.
You're watching a video. Yeah, that's a beast of a course. I teach a section of it too. It's like they get their money's worth though, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, but it's always this like thing I have to emphasize, like, take what you need, worry about what you want to do, what your project is, what your music is, and kind of cherry pick the things that are going to help you, then come back and like when you want to start expanding and exploring the other things a little deeper. And it seems to help a lot, and the projects tend to get better too, where they're not so concerned about covering every aspect, but they're more concerned about using what we've talked about to do more of what they want to do.
Yeah.
I'm pretty adamant that, feel free to change any of the requirements of the assignments. Feel free to alter things to fit what you're doing. As
oh, such a nice teacher.
Well, I guess like I know from, it's so funny when I teach the music stuff because everyone's excited for the most part. They want to be there. They signed up for it. But when I teach high school English, you have to be there. You have to take this class to graduate. So it's a much different attitude. And as much as I can with the English, I try to get them to write about the things they care about, read about the things they care about, instead of like things that, when you're 16 years old, they're just not important to you.
Well, I bow down to the high school teachers of the world. I really do. You guys work so hard, and that's a really tough age group to work with, man. So my hat goes off to you.
Well, I appreciate that because in July, I don't get too much sympathy during summer vacation. That's
you deserve it so much. Like, people have no idea how much energy it takes to be in a room with a group of people and like give them everything you've got. And if you have to do it 5 days a week for, 8 hours a day, it's like double the work of a full-time job because you're grading outside of class, you're preparing materials, you're teaching contact hours. So like you absolutely need 3 months off. Like that's just, that's actually fair and even.
It's a performance every day. That's for sure. Like you have to I have to turn into Mr. Funk and, put on this act and this show and get excited about things, because if I don't, it's a disaster.
They're not excited. Well, at least you have a really cool name. I mean, you get to be Mr. Funk.
Yeah, I got the instant icebreaker right away, It's definitely served me well.
That's awesome.
They're usually surprised to see me when they find out what I actually look like.
Like, what's this guy doing up here?
But it's so important, like, to make it interesting and to keep it exciting that way. So I'm like, in a lot of ways, when I do my programs after school, I'm like terrified I'm gonna like ruin it for them, because I think so much of what school does is like turn kids off to learning. Like I always ask them, like, how many of you guys like to read? And like one kid raises his hand and then like quickly pulls it down because he realizes he's the only one. He's like,
I don't like it.
I was just making a joke. I know it's not cool. I know. But you ask them, like, well, what about when you were a kid? And like all little kids love to read. They love stories and they love that kind of stuff. But I think school beats it out of them. And
yeah, some of them for sure.
It certainly beats a lot of creativity out of the kids. Especially when you start looking at like the way they're tested and these like high stakes tests where they'll be doing like a writing assignment, and if they get creative, it's like actually discouraged because like the rubric that you're grading it with doesn't look for that. It's not even it's creative thoughts, not even like an idea. It's not even a phrase on any of these rubrics that you look at.
You're in New York, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Long
New York
Island.
State, the testing is like so intense. I used to remember working with the girls and like the second graders and the sixth graders and be like, oh dear God, like my sixth grader's going to have an anxiety attack because they have to take this test, which is going to determine where they get to go to junior high. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
what a
I mean,
nightmare.
it wasn't like that as much when I was younger. We had like these Regents exams in high school, which were, state exams, but you could fail them and still graduate. You would just, you'd get your Regents diploma if you passed enough of them. But now they have to pass them. And they're often taking like, in that like 1 week at the end of the school year, some of them taking like 5 of these major tests that cover everything they've learned all year long. And yeah, it's like, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And especially, you get into like things like certain kids with maybe like taking anxiety, or some kid just doesn't feel good that day, or of course it's in June, so the rooms are swelteringly hot, and there's a lot of like problems with it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
I try to, avoid that stuff as much as possible. The focus on the big tests. I mean, obviously I have to prepare them, but I think this goes for music too, obviously. You can learn to read and you can learn to write by writing about and reading about things you care about and that you're interested in. And just like making music, I mean, you could study, the classics and go the more traditional route. But you can learn just as much, I think. And sometimes more in a lot of ways because you're more engaged when it's something you're interested in. I know for me, like I was never the traditional music student in school. I didn't play an instrument. I wasn't in band or anything like that. But when I was 14, I started playing guitar, and then music was everything. But there was no outlet for that at school. Except we had like a talent show, and one year we did the Battle of the Bands, and that was like the big thing on the calendar for the whole school year. But other than that, the school had nothing to give us, from our perspective. So I think like what you're doing is so good, and what I hope to do with the program to like bring it to these kids that aren't going to show up, with a trombone or something, and teach them about music and open up that door for them, because that it just leads to so many other places. Most of my friends I've made because I started playing guitar when I was 14.
Right.
I can trace it back to that because it's all involved through music and stuff.
Well, good on you. Keep doing it. You're in the right place.
Trying to. It's fun. It's a challenge, it's a lot of trying to get things approved and things, get it past the board and, get the room and find a computer that actually works. All those struggles are pretty real.
Yeah.
I'm sure you encounter that all the time with the actual technology.
Yeah, trying to get the new chapters to open. It's always Yeah, we rely on the generosity of others for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a good thing because, you know, I'm sure a lot of the kids you're working with, you're changing their lives, you know. You're giving them this whole new thing to explore, and it's a lifelong passion.
Yeah, that's the hope. I'm interested to see. We've only been a thing for 3 years, and most of the girls we've worked with are quite young. So
Yeah.
I don't think any of them have even graduated from high school yet. So I'm excited to see, you know, the trickle down effect of the fact that they're women and they're, you know, open to the idea that technology fields are for them.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I think that's something important that should happen in a lot of areas. Again, like even in my English classes, most of the books in the curriculum have a male protagonist. You know, it's the classic. It's you know, Holden Caulfield, it's Jay Gatsby, it's all these people they're all men, and we get the occasional book with the female protagonist, like a Tree Grows in Brooklyn or To Kill a Mockingbird. But one of the books I've started doing with my ninth graders called Speak. And it's more modern, which for one is nice to begin with. So it's not this old book that no one cares about, but it's like kind of real issues for them. And it's a female, and she's a ninth grader, just like they are.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I think that's important. And it's kind of funny too, because I think, you know, I hate to generalize, but I do feel like often like the females in my class are the better English students. You know, it just seems like they're more often the hardcore readers are females.
Like communicating. It's like a natural female thing, right?
Yeah. I get in trouble for bad communication all the time from my wife.
That's funny. I do the same thing to my husband. I'm like, talk to me.
I told you that already. And I swear I didn't hear this before.
Yep. Classic.
I get in trouble for that a lot. And I'm the English teacher.
That's funny.
So you had a chance to be at Loop. I saw your talk there.
Yeah.
Oh,
really?
Well, no, I wasn't there. I mean, I saw the video.
Oh, no. You should have introduced yourself.
No. Well, I think we did. I don't think we got to talk too much, but we presented once at TechServe in the city. We were on like the same, I think it was the same day anyway, with Hank Shockley with the user groups.
I've probably done like 5 user groups at TechServe before it was gone, but I mean, I know Hank, and I don't think I was ever there the same day as he was.
No, maybe I saw you then. I don't know. I saw you do your thing in person, and there was one I went to where I wasn't presenting, and then I think 2 where I did. So I could be confusing them, but
okay, cool.
I think you were going over like some live performance stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I try to incorporate a performance aspect into like everything that I'm doing, especially all the workshops and user groups.
Yeah.
But yeah, Loop was awesome. I got to go last year too. I'm not going to go this year because I'll be giving birth that month.
Yeah.
But it's such a great conference. It's like one of the highlights of my years every year. So
really,
yeah.
I hear that from everyone that goes. I'm so jealous. I got to get out there.
It's worth it. Take a vacation.
Yeah.
Go to Germany in November. It's freezing. It's fantastic.
Is it? Yeah.
It's cold. Yeah, it's very cold.
But yeah, like I think anytime you get like that many people that are kind of like on a creative mission, like it just rubs off on you. And
yes.
Anytime you get people in a certain frame of mind, you know, even if it's a negative, you know, the mob mentality starts happening. People start going nuts. But there's something about the collectiveness, you know, so it just seems like such a nice way to experience that.
Yeah, it's infectious for sure. I always leave feeling like I'm going to make so much music when I get home. And then invariably I'm just like, crap, I have so many emails to reply to.
Oh no, the email box.
Yeah.
I think I have like 60 unread messages that I keep, I got to get back to. Most of my email replies start off with, I apologize for the delay.
Sorry.
I know you said this 2 months ago. Did you have any like favorite presentations or moments when you were there? Aside from your own, of course.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some highlight from the first one. I really enjoyed listening to Matthew Herbert did a talk about his personal manifesto, and he was talking a lot about sampling and kind of the moral implications of doing that, which is like a conversation I feel like a lot of people are having, but they're just being dumb about it. But he was actually, I guess he had done a project where he had asked people to send them like their least favorite sounds or something like that. Right. And he had gotten a lot of Palestinians sending him sounds of, it was like somebody being shot or a bomb going off, right? So he had all of these crazy samples, and he was like talking about how he was just morally torn between, you know, it's like when you press that key, like what does that mean? And, you know, if you've got a gunshot like spread out across a MIDI keyboard, like what are the implications of using that sample? And just he was talking about it on a deeper level that was actually artistic, and I appreciated that. It wasn't about like legality or derivative works, you know. So that, I think that's what I like a lot about the conference, is that it's like these deeper meanings. I became good friends with Roger Lynn as well, and I sat in on his talk, and it was about like new instrument design, because he's got this really crazy MPE little
instrument.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was, you know, there was like Dave Smith was up there and Roger Lynn, whatever, and they were asking people what is your biggest regret from your career? And Roger said that he regrets creating the Lindrum and the MPC because he feels like he like ruined the music, like the industry, because he made it so easy for people to take other people's music and sample it, that he really believes that he sort of like killed off virtuosic instrumental solos, and that like the entire, you know, perspective of the music industry shifted to be more sample oriented, and he like feels like he's responsible for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of heavy, right? What a burden.
Like, that is so crazy. You know, that in my mind, you know, the Lindrum and the MPC are just, you know, like nothing would be possible without a lot of the capabilities and technology that's derivative of these original ideas that he came up with. And so that's why the Lindstrument is his answer to that, you know. So that's what I really like about Loop, is like I can sit in and hear these conversations and hear Young Guru talk about how the piano is just a preset. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. You know, like just to kind of get other ideas from other people. Last year, D'Anthony Parks, that was my top favorite one, watching him perform that techno self with the sampler and like the 3-piece drum kit, and Kimbra's performance was fantastic. Like improvisational vocal processing and sampling was really cool. I mean, I could go on. It's so great.
Yeah, so much good stuff, right?
Yeah. I've
heard Roger Lynn talking about that, like the virtuosity, the guitar solo is gone. He's an interesting guy. I mean, I don't know him, but I talked to him because I went to the Brooklyn Synth meetup, and he's just standing right there next to his instrument, showing people how it works. Oh, yeah. You know, he's definitely like just down to earth. You know, here's a legend, you know, who's changed the face of music, and he's not like on any like royal pedestal or anything. He's just right down there getting dirty with his instrument, just showing you how it works.
I feel like if more people knew, you know, if you're at that Synth Expo and someone's like, hey, guess what, guys, that guy over there, like he designed like the original MPC, people would be like, oh shit, you know. Yeah. But they just don't know. It's like he's, you know, largely anonymous. Unless you know who Roger is and what he looks like, there's no way you would ever suspect that like this guy did all these things.
Like, it's funny when you think about who all the household names are in music that are so forgettable. And then you get someone like that who is just, transformed everything.
Yeah.
I would argue for good, but it's kind of upsetting to hear him say that. It sounds almost like this is a bad comparison, but when they invented like the atomic bomb and they realized what they actually did,
they had done, you're like, I can't believe I split the atom. Oh my God!
Yeah.
Look at what these people did with my genius.
Shit, we're causing some problems. But yeah, he was just great, down to earth, showing you, explaining, and he really emphasized that idea that like he wants the expression back in there. And I was talking to somebody about this and how music these days has changed so much that there's, where there would normally have been that guitar solo, now there might be like maybe it might be like a rap interlude or something, or just there's not that like show of I guess expertise going on.
Yeah, instrumental proficiency. It's just, I don't know.
Well, it's funny because you don't even need to play an instrument anymore to make music.
You don't. It's like I have a piano performance degree from Berklee, and I always took my instrumental and like musical background. I think it plays such a huge role in the type of educator and the type of producer and writer that I am. But I absolutely subscribe to the fact that the barrier of entry has become so low, and it's like we've kind of democratized music making in a sense. Like it used to be something that was the luxury of the few who had instruction and mentorship and access to expensive instruments. And now we're saying like all you need is a web browser and the internet.
Yeah. And
that's kind of amazing that it's become more of like a community-based thing that you engage with, which is like what it used to be, right? When people would like dance together with their communities and their villages. And so, I'm all about what's happened and what's happening. And then yet there's another part of me that really feels like to be the best of the best, you do need like a real underlying knowledge of music in some sense, I guess.
I hear you because, the part of myself that spent all those years learning guitar and studying theory and practicing my scales, like that guy's pissed off. He's like, this isn't fair. Yeah. I've worked so hard and now all these people are showing up. But, in the big picture, I mean, it is a really cool thing. But I think on the other hand, too, like in order to, I guess like strike meaning in your work and have something that moves people, I don't think you're going to get that with just grabbing a couple loops, in GarageBand and just throwing something together like that. It takes something else. At least I like to hold on to that. Yeah. That's a way I comfort that, angry practicing musician.
Yeah. It's like no matter what the skills you have are, and I think it's really interesting when people are, they try to like covet the information that they know.
Yes.
They're like, don't show them your template session, or are trying to just withhold information. Like that's the thing that's preventing somebody from being awesome. When it's like I can have just as much information as the next person, and that other person might do it, or their iteration of art could be so completely different or on a higher level than mine. It's like what you do with that information is actually the thing that sets us apart, not what we do or don't know.
Right. Yeah. It's usually not information we need. Because if it was if we needed more information, if it was only a matter of information, we'd all, have like 6-pack abs and, like we all know what it takes to do that, right? It's just doing it. It's what you do with the information.
Yeah.
But I think that was like, and a really inspiring thing for me was when I guess it came with YouTube really, was when you saw people like sharing how their secrets, that this idea that like, look, I'm going to share this. Like, it's not like the magic formula that I've got. It's just a technique I use. And I think it was, I've always attribute this to Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, and I don't know if it was even him because I can't remember where I heard this, but the point is like nothing's precious. You know, like if you say you forgot the song that you were working on yesterday, you thought it was going to be the greatest thing ever. Well, don't sweat it, you know, because you did it yesterday. You can do it today. You can do it tomorrow. What's special, what's precious is like the thing that's inside you, not just the preset you have or the template you have or the riff you came up with. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I'm so thankful that there is a community of people sharing on the internet. I mean, I graduated with Berklee. I have a songwriting and a piano performance degree. And at no point did anybody ever suggest that I learn how to use my computer ever. And I didn't really even see that as being necessary until it was like the mid to late 2000s. When I realized that I wasn't in a power position unless I knew how to use my computer. So I taught myself. I never took a music technology course at Berklee or any place else. I taught myself everything through Googling and watching YouTube videos.
Oh, so much of my education, I'd say probably most of my education in life now has been like YouTube, and just what's out there and just people sharing. I have to imagine that it's like there might be like this time soon where like this all starts catching up to us, where all of this information being out there, we start seeing like some crazy like innovations and like real advancements in what we're doing. I kind of feel like it seems like a lot of the musical fads and the musical trends are happening faster than they used to. I don't know if I don't have any evidence for this, but it just seems like there's always something else going on. There's something new happening. And I think in the past, you know, like certain types of music kind of lingered on for like a decade, you know, before like they kind of changed. I think like, you know, 80s like hair rock or something that lasted so long. I feel like that just wouldn't last as long anymore because we just are constantly moving on.
I agree. I see it with my students too, because they want to make whatever's happening. And like there was this one year where they all wanted to make Trop House, you know, and then we had to talk about like dance hall and reggaeton and like where that came from. And then the next year, everybody wanted to make like folktronica, sort of like Bon Iver inspired music. And yeah, I see the tides turning and everybody kind of, you know, going with the flow.
Yeah. It's like, I see that too in what the kids listen to in school. And it's like it seems like every week there's like something new going on and nothing like really sticks around for very long.
True.
By the time, you know, it like trickles down, I feel like trickles down, maybe trickles up. I feel like a lot of the trends I see a little early with the high school kids. And then it starts showing up in like my friends, totally. I got something like dubstep, or you know, that was none of my friends were talking about that until like long after the kids were done with it.
Yeah, but I think actually dubstep was one of the genres where like things you saw such huge implications of like when that genre became popular, like it affected everybody. And I feel like a lot of those intrinsic, like fundamental things that make dubstep, like wobble basses, halftime drops, like those types of things, just really affected us. Yeah. So it's like dubstep stuck around, just in a completely different iteration.
Right.
You know?
I guess like it like exploded and all the shards went everywhere.
Yeah. In like such an impactful way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it seems like the idea of dubstep itself is like kind of looked down upon. It's like it's past its prime. But when you look at a lot of the music that's going on, it's like, well, listen to that wobble bass, listen to that halftime section that just came in. Like that's definitely coming out of something that I think was brought to us there. All those like insane, they don't even sound like musical instrument bass lines. They're just distorted and metallic. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, or even side chaining, like that's some sort of, you know, evolving effect of like LFOs being used, you know what I mean? Or or that sort of like pulsation, pendulum swinging musical feel, which makes a wobble bass is like now just on everything.
Yeah, you could find that in like a folk song now.
Yeah.
Folktronic has got the side chain bass and everything, which was
totally.
Yeah, like it used to be very stuck to the genre, I guess, but now it's split open. I know, like for me, like learning about some of these techniques, and again, coming from like guitar rock band background, when I heard of like side chaining the bass to the kick drum, I was like, what? But now I find myself doing a lot of those techniques in like a rock setting, where if I want a lead guitar, say, to kind of cut out of the mix, but I don't want to lose the energy of the rhythm guitar, I'll sidechain that rhythm guitar, compress that whenever the lead plays, and it's basically a technique brought out of like electronic music, put back in an older style. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's what so many of the great records from the 70s, why they sound so good, is like just that respect and communication from one instrument to the next, like what sidechaining was originally supposed to be used for. Like in a hardware sense,
like
or even like
voiceovers.
radio broadcast. Yeah, exactly. It's like when this happens, this happens. It's like, okay, the communication and like interplay between two elements is useful. It's just a useful thing, besides being creative and artistic in certain applications.
Yeah, and I think we kind of like got that automatically. Like when you record on a tape machine, you can record something on track 1, track 2, track 3, but if you record something so loud and it's distorting on track 4, it affects the other tracks. Like it bleeds over, and you get this like kind of like interplay. I don't know. I guess it's just a physical thing because there's only so much space for the sound, but sometimes a certain sound can just almost cancel everything else out because it's just too overpowering. But when you're inside the computer and everything's separate and isolated, and track 4 will never affect track 3 because it's not on a physical tape. I think that now, like, creating those interactions is important, even more important now, just because you don't get that kind of natural, like, when the kick drum hits on a tape, it kind of like disrupts the whole mix.
Have you ever checked out Isotope has a product called Neutron?
I want to. Yes, I've been looking at that. I've watched a lot of videos on it. I've heard some really good things.
It's fascinating.
The masking features.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
One of the main DSP engineers over there, her name's Hannah Robertson, and she spoke on a panel I was moderating, and listening to her kind of break down like how they were dealing with masking frequencies, or dealing with the masking of frequencies, and it was just absolutely mind-blowing. Definitely worth checking out. If anybody's listening to this podcast, you should check out Isotope's Neutron.
Yeah, you use it yourself?
I use all of their stuff. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love their stuff. Is always good. But I think for me, my ultimate like goal is just to kind of record music and make songs. I'm not trying to be a mixing engineer. So I love the idea of something that'll kind of be like, hey, just look out over here. There's something going on. Kind of like a little signpost telling me to watch out for these frequencies. Because, and it took me so long to learn this. It's like funny when I think about it now, but like the idea that like you can't have everything be bassy. You can't have everything be huge. Like this idea of like something being bassy or something being big, it's a relative statement. You can't, You don't really have bassy unless you've got something that's tinny or trebly. You don't have anything big unless you got something small. King Kong is huge until you put him next to Jupiter, the planet, So that comparison is so important. And I'd never, for so long, it never occurred to me that I can't have everything have all this low end on it. And once I learned that, it was amazing what it did for my mixes, for cleaning them up. And I just love the idea of like some of the more, like, I think low end is an easy one to be aware of, like especially in the subs, but some of the other frequencies are a little more elusive, I guess. You can throw on that high pass filter and just cut out the bass, and that's pretty obvious. But some of the other frequencies, I got to get that plugin because everyone I talk to that's had any experience with it is like, oh, this is really cool. This is next level stuff.
It is. Well, I mean, you're right. Like when you think about even just all the things we've already talked about in terms of like, okay, well, you don't have to have instrumental proficiency anymore. And depending on what your goals are as a producer, it's like, do you need to know everything about synthesis? Do you need to know everything about DSP? Do you need to know everything about music theory, arrangement, composition? It's like there's just so much to know. But we have access to tools that allow us to do whatever we want. I mean, Ozone is another good example of this. iZotope's mastering plugin makes mastering so accessible and easy to people where they never would have been able to do that before. So I think tools like this are fantastic, especially like if you are more concerned with the creative part of it, but you don't want to, you don't want to risk fidelity or sonic quality. It's like, yeah, we need more of those things.
Yeah, when I was younger, I had all these like kind of, I don't know, like ethical standards about like, I have to make sure, I've done everything. I'm mixing this and I'm doing all this stuff. But as I get older and more experienced and probably realize that my time is precious, I can't figure all this stuff out. I'll learn it as I go, and your mixing gets better and better and your mastering and whatnot. But I think when you look at the big picture and your goal, and for me, like I said, is just kind of making songs, writing, it's okay to get a little help here and there. It's okay if you quantize sometimes. It's okay if you, do what you got to do. Like the point is to make the music, if that's your point, And
never let your morals get in the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like especially when they're kind of pointless. These like pointless like stands. I don't know. I think a lot of people I know I definitely have taken these like ideas like, no, I have to have a true bypass guitar pedal. Who cares at the end of the day? It's not, this stuff's not as important. It's so easy to get caught up in.
It's funny because I feel like I used to be the same way, especially when I was younger with keyboards. And then totally swung like just all software for a while. And I find myself swinging back where I'm always like, I refuse to use digital bass. Like I am just strictly analog now.
That's funny.
And I can't handle it, So I wonder where things will go as I continue this journey.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we sometimes draw these weird lines in the sand. I was like a teenager and I thought any music with a drum machine was dumb, even though a lot of music I liked had drum machines in it. But for me, I had this like, high ground of that a drummer has feel and whatnot. But and it's so funny when I look at myself now with like surrounded by drum machines and, programming drums every day. More than I play the drums. But we do these things and we set up these rules. I've noticed it even when I first started performing with my electronic set, coming out with a laptop, and there was much more pushback from people like, oh, what's this guy doing with his computer tonight, And now it's not even like something people think about. And you can go back, I think, to maybe like the early 2000s when you started seeing like MacBooks on stage with a rock band. And you're like, what's that about? Like it just seemed wrong. But we've changed. It's like now you would expect to see one on stage with any band almost.
Changing, yeah.
Yeah, it's a process.
I mean, I teach in the songwriting department. That's where I'm housed at Berklee. And I'm definitely the only person over here that's using a laptop on stage still. But we're about to, I think in the fall, Berklee's going to start accepting laptop as a principal instrument here.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, which would be huge, a huge step forward. I think that would signify, it would be really meaningful for the rest of the industry and the rest of academia to say this is an instrument, and you can do so much with technology.
Yeah, I think that is important because, I mean, people were upset about the electric guitar when it came out.
Yes.
Some of the purists. Bob Dylan caught a lot of flack for that. And I mean, it seems very short-sighted to not accept the laptop or the iPad or whatever you want, your Korg Volca, as an instrument. It makes music, right? Like, what is an instrument? It makes music. That's cool.
Interesting. When we were like in this meeting talking about, debating this laptop issue, that whole electric guitar thing came up because, Berklee is historically a jazz school, and they didn't start offering electric guitar anything. Like, it wasn't, you weren't allowed to have it as a principal instrument yet, but just even any classes. Then the guy he was the first, I can't remember what his name is, but he's like, yeah, the only way I could get them to allow me to even use it in an ensemble was to call it the Jazz Rock Ensemble. And so it all had to be like through this lens of jazz for a while. And then finally, like in the late 70s, they let it happen, which is crazy when you think about that now. It's like there are far more electric guitar players than there are acoustic guitar players at this college.
Yeah.
So maybe 20 years from now, we'll laugh at the fact that we were so resistant to technology in music.
I think so. I think it'll be kind of like, what were we thinking? Like, it'll be like the people that said like the internet was a fad or something like that. Like, just out of your mind. Like, no way. Of course it's an instrument. That's what people are using. Yeah, I think a lot of kids these days, and maybe I'm sure you're seeing this too, like their first exposure to the music is through a computer. They're playing music. It comes through a computer now. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I know you guys got some cool things coming up at Berklee. Can you share any of that with us?
Well, the stuff that Loud and I are doing, I think is pretty, I find that to be exciting. I don't know.
Yeah, I do too.
Anybody else will, but
yeah.
So that advanced course, we're going to parse it out. So we just, earlier this year, we restructured the fundamentals course for Berklee Online with like a completely new ethos of teaching, which is based upon the learning circle, is what we're calling it.
Okay.
But I think traditionally, a lot of music technology has been very like almost pyramid based. Like, first you must understand how frequencies work, and this is the MIDI protocol. And there's like a lot of talking before application. So instead of like building, we're spiraling around. So we'll introduce, relatively advanced topics. Like, for instance, automation is something we talk about in week 2. And again, it's like we don't go so in depth on it until later on in the course. It's like you start with clip automation, and then you start with arrangement automation, then you start with parameter automation, and you see it so many different times and so many iterations through this like circling back that you get more depth and more understanding out of the techniques. So I think that the new fundamentals course is really, really cool. And then we're just about to finish. So his advanced course, we're parsing into 3 different courses. So there's going to be one that's just on sampling that we're about to finish. We're filming next week. And then there's another one that's just synthesis and DSP, which will come out probably January. And then the third one is a nonlinear creative strategies and composition workshop, which is more of that sort of kind of like esoteric, like using Ableton as a collaborator, as a collaborative partner, or creating generative reactive compositions, and kind of just like taking all the crazy nonlinear malleable functionality to generate music with your computer.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And it sounds like a lot of the topics that I tell my students in the advanced production class with Ableton, this could be a whole course. This could be a whole lifetime of study, like sampling, synthesis, generative music and live. I mean, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's the stuff I'm personally more interested in, is like those kind of moments where it's improvisational. I think for a lot of people, making music with a computer is like a highly controlled sort of type A experience. But like when you feel like you've really grasped control over the technology, you can kind of relinquish some of that, relinquish the control in a way, like the most exciting and improvisational and unique things happen. And that's when I get really excited about making music with a computer. It's like almost akin to performing in a way, which is, where my heart really is. So if I can create those improvisational, performative moments within my composition and production, then it's like everything's so exciting all the time. And I just want everybody to feel that way, I guess. So
I'm with you on that. Yeah, a lot of my writing actually happens inside my live performance set. So where I kind of, and honestly, most of the music I've done lately, I have to, instead of take it from the studio to the stage, I'm like taking it from the stage to the studio, because it's more like this thing where I'm kind of, I'll have a bunch of musical ideas, throw them in the session view, and then I just kind of jam on it. And I'll sing, I'll kind of just say whatever until I find the syllables and the phrasing that works, and then find the words. And I find it to be surprisingly, considering how digital it is and computerized, it's really organic, because I'm sort of just letting the songs kind of blossom. I'm not forcing things to happen, where if I'm playing my guitar, I'm saying, all right, next I'm going here, next I'm going here. But when I'm doing it in this more like kind of loose performance kind of way, it's like you just sort of, it finds itself almost. And you just sort of realize what works, and you kind of just, you let it happen a little more.
Well, you're lucky you get to perform, It's like, don't you wish everybody could have that sort of an experience with technology?
Sure.
Where they could be on stage and experience what that's like to have something occur in real time, and like that creative experience, I think is really unique. So that's what we're doing right now, is we're finishing up these courses, and that's what's happening over here at Berklee. Like, curriculum development is super exhausting and tedious, and ultimately like not that rewarding, I guess, in the end. But that's what we're here to do, and help people find the best way to learn things. And I accepted that as kind of my current calling.
Nice. I like that. And I think that it's a great direction, and it applies really, in my opinion, to almost anything you can teach. This more like, instead of this like starting with the basics, like you said, the pyramid style, and before you can write a story, you have to diagram a sentence, kind of stuff that like nobody wants to do. And in all honesty, like nobody really does. That's like actually enjoying themselves.
Yeah, true.
I think that's great, and it's a nice direction. It's refreshing to see that in education, because so much of it is going towards these, like, at least what I see, like the testing and these really predetermined things you need to know before you can go here and there. But this idea that you're kind of like, would you say spiraling around it? Is that the term?
The learning circle, yes.
Yeah. Well, and it's nice because like I'm sure you find this as a teacher, that it opens the doors for you. You learn a lot that way. You start using the students as an educational tool and their experience and what they know. And I think, I learned so much more about anything I teach by teaching. And it's mostly because there's so many other people you're working with and so many different perspectives. And it doesn't matter their level or their ability, just new ways of looking at things, which I think is a big part of what learning is, like a new way of looking at something. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's nice. I really do look forward to those classes. That's going to be some good stuff.
Well, we're going to need some people to teach them, so...
Call me up. I'm ready.
All right.
Yeah, I really do enjoy the class I'm teaching. For one, just all the different people you meet and talk to, and the different backgrounds, and there's people from all over the world doing all kinds of music.
Totally.
And I always feel like I'm the one that learns the most as the teacher.
Funny.
But
well, you're lucky you're teaching Loudon's courses. His is super well written and engaging, and students have a great time in that course. I've taught other ones which are not so engaging, and it's you're having a pleasant experience. Let me just put it that way.
That's good to know. Yeah, it is like kind of magical fairy tale teaching experience.
Yeah. It's like you don't even have to do the teaching part. You just get to like interact and engage with people as they do learn. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of fun. So anything on the horizon for you as we kind of reach the end of our time here? Anything you're working on otherwise, your own music or anything?
I'm doing a lot of production for other artists. If you guys are interested in knowing more about what I'm doing professionally outside of Berklee, I go under the name Mama Barra. Mm-hmm. It's MAMMABARRA. And you can see there's like all playlists of newer music that I've been producing and different content. I'm writing for Music Tech magazine now, and
cool.
Yeah, just doing all sorts of stuff, little projects. I'm working with Wayne Brady on his new comedy special. He's doing like an improvisational music thing when we're incorporating Ableton and music technology into the improvising. So that's a really fun project, and that'll launch either early 2018 or end of this year.
Nice. Is that on like a TV network or Netflix?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I've said as much as I can say.
Okay, sorry.
That he's doing a project later this year, and it's going to be musical and hilarious.
Okay.
And
it's a good teaser.
Yeah, just this baby. That's what I'm.
Yes, that's
what's going on.
That's the big project, right?
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Well, listen, it was really nice talking to you and picking your brain and hearing about some of the stuff you're doing. And I would definitely like to take you up on that offer for the curriculum you work with the Beatz for Girls.
Yeah, no problem.
I could use all the help I can get. It's a new thing. It's a funny combination of it's like I've been teaching music production for a while now, but it's never been to kids, and I've been teaching English, but it's not music to kids. And now when I put them together, it's surprisingly challenging to find what works. And like I said earlier, like I don't want to ruin it for them. I don't want to sit there and be like, all right, guys, let's talk about the compressor and like show them an hour-long slideshow. You want to keep it fun and engaging. So yeah, I'd definitely hit you up on that stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so we'll say our goodbyes and then we'll wrap it up right after this. But thanks to Erin Barra, Mama Barra. So check her out. It's mamabarra.com, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, check her out online. Her work is great. She's got plenty of really cool videos, great talks. I'm going to put all that stuff in the show notes. So yeah, again, thanks so much for your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Have a great day, everybody.